What do you do when you're told that what you want is impossible? Perhaps you can take inspiration from today's entry into the Everyman series. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much to those of you who listen to this show every single day, especially here in June when I'm going a little bit off the beaten path, a little bit more creative and abstract. And I appreciate everybody who sticks with me on this journey. I hope it's rewarding for you as it is for me. If you're new here, hello, welcome. My name is Luke. You can find this show anywhere you find your favorite podcast. Just search it out, Locked On Vikings. That includes YouTube and Amazon Fire and Roku if you download the Locked On Minnesota Sports app. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Today, the entire show will be one Everyman series entry. The Everyman series is something we do every year here on the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we go over the backstories of every man on the 90-man roster. Now, of course, we've done a few of these players a couple times, so we're only doing the new players on the roster for now. And if you are interested in the Everyman series entry, I think I might have been calling it something different for somebody like Justin Jefferson or somebody like Christian Darrisaw. You can, of course, always find previous years. Just go scroll through the library of this show. If you start in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and drive west on Highway 98 past the churches, farms, and auto salvage shops, you will find a quaint little town called Columbia, Mississippi. And it is there, in 2001, February, a Kevon Cloyd was born way too young, very preemie. He'll go by KJ, and he will be told that he should not play sports at all because of his birth condition, that athletics just are not going to be in the cards for him. He is told doubt from a very early age. And the way he talks about this now, it sort of sets the tone for his entire athletic career. This theme is going to come up a lot in this particular entry of the Everyman series, this sort of success out of a sense of stubbornness. As with basically anybody you will find in the NFL, football gets its hooks into KJ Cloyd pretty much right away as soon as he's exposed to it, which is very young. He is obsessed with it, and he will work really hard to have to get himself into athletic shape. And this sort of constant feeling that he's behind is going to spur that work ethic forever. He will prove those people wrong. And he doesn't really care what kind of authority you have when you're telling him, like even if you're a doctor telling him, no, you are not going to have athletic prowess, he doesn't care. He's going to outwork you, and he's going to outwork what you think of him. That will bring him into high school, where his sophomore year at Columbia High School, he will be participating in an Oklahoma drill. I feel the need to say it. I don't think the Oklahoma drill belongs in basically any football program. I think if you are running the Oklahoma drill, I think you're doing a bad job with your players. It doesn't really teach you skills. It just hits and it hurts. It doesn't, or I shouldn't say it hurts, it injures. And that's what happened to KJ Cloyd. He will take a shot to the shoulder that is so severe that he doesn't even realize how bad it is at first. When he takes the impact, he'll feel this kind of pop, and he feels it in his shoulder all the way up to his neck, like this really wide range pain. And he'll go to the doctor, and they'll check him out, and he'll say, "You didn't just dislocate your shoulder. You have severed the nerves in your arm." Not only does the doctor say you probably aren't going to play again, the doctor wants to amputate his arm. That is a new one for me. I have not heard of that injury before, and now going into my 7th season and covering an NFL football team, have never heard of the severed nerves in your arm injury. He will not accept this state of affairs. In his mind, that is preferable to what he would see as failure. If he lost his arm and he would never play football again, or he was kind of told like you might not ever play again anyways, that would constitute failure. Now, I think in adulthood, he would realize it's not really his fault, right? Like it's an injury, it's circumstance and stuff. But in that moment, that is an unacceptable failure. He almost talks about it like having his arm amputated would have been like quitting. Like, I don't know. That's the subtext that I get just from reading the quotes. But obviously, it's difficult to make that kind of like psychoanalysis from the distance that I stand at. But either way, he goes through a grueling rehab process. And again, this is already a guy that had to work really hard to be the athlete that he was. And it's unfortunate because at this point, he's actually growing up to be a pretty big-bodied guy. He'll end up playing, once he gets into college and stuff, at like 6'2" and a nice natural 220 that isn't very hard to get up to like true linebacker size. So he's sort of blessed with the right frame, but he can't even so much as lift a shoelace. And that's what he starts doing when he is rehabbing. You know, they tell him, you'll probably never play football again after this injury. And you know, the doctor says you severed your nerve in your arm. You'll be lucky if that arm is normal, but you're not playing football ever again. Sorry, dream's over. But what is KJ Cloyd if not stubbornly successful? He says, nah, screw that. I don't care that you told me that. I am getting back to football. Football is everything, and I am going to get back to it no matter what. So he takes his shoelace and he just picks it up with his finger. And that's the workout. Just picking up a shoelace. That's it. Just basically just lifting your arm. And then once that gets easy enough, he can pick up the whole shoe. And eventually he was able to work his way up to weights, first 5 pounds and then 10 pounds and then normal weight training until he could regain his entire strength. And now there's basically no, at least in terms of football, it doesn't seem like there's any real effect from that injury. It seems like he's completely rehabbed it back to a full recovery. How incredible. Based on determination alone. I mean, like medically, that shouldn't be how that goes down. But it's amazing what people can do when they put their mind to it. But unfortunately, this has totally gotten in his way. Because he missed his sophomore season and the entire run up to his junior season, kind of putting that whole season in flux as well. He did get in and get some play for the last few weeks of his junior season, but by then, you know, he hasn't done any training camp, right? He had like, how good, you're not putting your best foot forward by that point, right? So he doesn't get a lot of run from any colleges at all. Absolutely nothing. He plays great in his senior season. He gets like all district honors and all that. But by then it's too late. Most of the recruiting offering that happens will happen over the course of your junior year. And most of the offers you're going to get, you already have by the time you play as a senior. And, you know, signing days in like February, right? But he doesn't get any offers anywhere. Everybody's scholarships are already filled up. So he's going to go to junior college. Try to do a year in community college and save this thing. The odds are against him, but I hope you've learned by now not to tell him that. Today's Locked On Vikings episode is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is the best place to find last-minute tickets to whatever event you're trying to get to. Whether it is a sporting event, if you're lucky enough to see an NBA Finals game, maybe get one of those before it's too late. Or concerts, comedy, theater, whatever. You can get flash deals where you save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. They'll be highlighted in big letters right on the top of the app. You can't miss it. And you also get all-in pricing. It's a toggle that you can put on that shows you what you will pay out at checkout, so that if there are whatever fees that there are already loaded in and everything is said to you up front, you can make your decision with that information. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA Finals tickets or any tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off of your first purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day. If you want something a little bit more lighthearted and completely wild, go over to the Locked On Minnesota Sports YouTube page, click on the live tab, and go click on the Hot Wings episode. You can't miss it. It's my face very red on the thumbnail, and you can go see me take a Hot Wings challenge. I really want people to see that because I suffered a lot for it. So go do that. I lost a bet. I lost a lot of bets. That was my punishment. Go see me suffer. But now, continuing with this episode of the Everyman series. too often, I think in these, I sort of gloss over what are pretty extraordinary accomplishments. Making it to the NFL in general, just getting to a rookie minicamp even, is a pretty extraordinary accomplishment. And along the way, there are all these little failure points, these little like Fermi barriers, if you will, that will take out 80% of the field and you got to survive it. And then take out 80% of that field and you got to survive it. You know, just getting an offer for a scholarship from any college is already an accomplishment. And a lot of kids just don't get there. Or even, you know, starting, right? Like you've already taken away half of the kids that play high school football that are all just backups all the time, right? That just don't even as seniors. They just like, they get usurped, right? This will happen. And when you don't get a scholarship offer from a Division I school, your chances of donning an NFL helmet plummet. Yeah, like you're basically out of it. You are now in this world where, yeah, okay, every once in a while a kid comes out of JUCO and does the thing. But like, it ain't going to be, like, you're not going to be able to predict who it is, right? But never tell KJ Cloyd those odds. He has a pretty astounding athleticism at this point that is an asset among, let's be honest, not really serious competition at the community college level. So he's like dunking on guys. But he comes with that same work ethic, that same competitive edge. And he even says like it's like a reality show where he's like, I didn't really come to Jones Community College, which is about an hour away from where he grew up. It's just north of Hattiesburg. And he says, I didn't really come there to like make friends. I came there to work my tail end off and to earn the Division I scholarship that I know I deserve. And it's just that they didn't get to see me enough. And I just got to put a little more tape out there. Now he says he didn't come there to make friends, but he does, of course, grow very close to his teammates. One of them is Dalen Gill, who eventually he'll go to Southern Mississippi. He'll get a D1, or I think Southern Mississippi is D1. Yeah, it's Conference USA. So he'll also get that D1 scholarship, but they push each other, and that sort of competition between them allows them to like unlock an even greater work ethic that sort of endears him to not only his teammates and his coaches, but to recruiters as well. And when you hear, you know, every little blog has, we offered this JUCO kid, and like has their little write-up of it. And every single one of them cites his character and his work ethic. It is infectious and it is noticeable. When one kid is outworking all the other kids on the field, you see it. You kind of can't miss it. That is where KJ Cloyd finds his way to Division I football. Things were going very, very well after he was named the second best JUCO linebacker in the nation, and he's ready to sort of go into the next step of this process, which is basically spring drills, hopefully with recruiters watching you, and it sort of becomes like a mini recruiting combine. But unfortunately, this was 2020. Things got unprecedented, as it were, and everything slows down everywhere, including these recruiting circuits. Your whatever spring drills you maybe even will or won't do, people aren't going to show up to them anymore because they can't. Everybody's on lockdown. And this is like April 2020, right? Like everybody was home. March 2020, basketball had just shut down. Nobody knew what was going on. But still, at least one school had already seen enough just from the JUCO tape. He gets an offer from Arizona in April. They call him up and they ask him, hey, have you gotten any Power 5 offers yet? And he was like, no, sir. And they said, okay, now you have one. We're going to offer you one. So there it is. He has the offer. The barrier has been broken, right? The threshold has been reached, but it does not end there. His head coach and his position coach at Jones Community College start helping him out and calling contacts that they have and say, we've got this linebacker. You got to look at him. He gets a call from DJ Durkin, which turns into an offer from Ole Miss. And then they start rolling in. Arkansas was actually the first SEC team to get there. He gets Ole Miss, Louisville. He had very much made it to where he thought he deserved to be in high school. And at this point, he had gone from that long shot, distant moon odds to, oh, they did just miss him. He had kind of proved his point just by making it here. He will accept an offer from Louisville, a scholarship offer. Of course, he waits until he can actually go on visits, right? He's kind of got to like sit there and like stew on all this decision before he can like go visit places and actually get back out there again. But eventually he will. He'll fall in love with Louisville and choose to go to college there. But Louisville doesn't exactly go how he envisioned. Louisville Cardinals linebackers coach Derek Nicholson, or former Louisville linebackers coach Derek Nicholson, very blessed man the last few years. He has been able to coach multiple NFL prospects. Only one of them was drafted. That was Yasir Abdullah. But C.J. Avery and Dorian Etheridge also made it to the NFL as undrafted free agents. These are not, these are not stud crazy linebacker prospects that blow the doors off of everything that are first round picks. But you got to remember, we are in the college ranks. If you are getting an NFL contract, you're probably one of the best 2 or 3 players on the team. Unfortunately for KJ Cloyd, this puts a firm deadlock on any ability to get any playing time for 3 years at Louisville. He does everything he's supposed to do, plays the special teams, he gets in for spot duty every once in a while, but he basically has no production to speak of. And for Derek Nicholson, the linebackers coach, he's basically the only guy that sees KJ Cloyd play regularly. And he'll be asked about this later, and he'll kind of say, like, look, we had NFL dudes. Those dudes got the reps. Those dudes got into the game. But you got to trust me on this KJ Cloyd guy. After the 2022 season, Derek Nicholson will take a job with the Miami Hurricanes. But right at the end of that season in practice, he sees something click with KJ Cloyd that you can tell that he's like been picking things up from all these like NFL caliber people. And you can see that something really clicks in KJ Cloyd, and it sticks in his mind. And so he goes and takes the Miami job, and KJ Cloyd graduates, which means that not only does he still have some eligibility left, but it means that he can transfer and get to a program that maybe believes in him a little bit more. So he enters the transfer portal, and when Derek Nicholson sees this, he is very excited. And perhaps the greatest endorsement you can get is if the position coach that didn't start you is still interested in you, he means it when he says, trust me, this kid has something and I just kind of couldn't do it because we had an embarrassment of riches. And it wasn't his fault. So we go to Miami. Now we're in one of the most prestigious and storied football programs in the country. At this point, I want to take a moment to just step back and appreciate all of the obstacles that we have crawled over to get here. If the chalk odds-on favorite outcome had happened in any of these places, whether it was the preemie that wasn't supposed to play football, right? Maybe he just was supposed to grow up to be a little guy that doesn't even think about sports for his whole life. Or the kid that had a football injury that was so bad he lost his arm. That's what he was supposed to be. That's what the common outcome would have been. But at no point will KJ Cloyd allow himself to settle for the common outcome. The kid that, the Uncle Rico that could have gone pro if he just got a little more playing time. No. I'm going to JUCO. I'm going to find that playing time wherever I can find it. I'm going to put tape out there, and those college coaches aren't going to be able to say no. And even when one of those college coaches says yes, but it happens to be with a program that has so many other really, really good linebackers that he doesn't get in, he still finds a way. I'm going to go to the transfer portal, and I'm going to basically do the same thing. That grad transfer year, that sort of KJ Osborne, let me get with a bigger school, also Miami, let me get with a bigger school and get some tape out there so that I can actually get onto the radar of NFL teams. That move is strategically kind of similar to the JUCO move. When, okay, I didn't get enough run out of high school, and for some JUCO kids, it is because they went to a high school that was too small that nobody saw, or because of some other circumstance that took their playing time away. Whatever it is, at every junction, the common outcome has been failure. But he says it all the time, and it's kind of funny because we just did the Trent Sherfield thing where he's got the tattoo, but he says failure is not an option. We do not settle for failure. He will work harder than the guy next to him. He will work harder than the guy judging him. He will work harder than your idea of what he can do. And that stubbornness has led him to this point where now he joins a Minnesota Vikings team with not really the Louisville issue. This is a wide open room. I mean, the starting jobs are pretty much set in stone, right? Ivan Pace, Blake Cashman, but I've said it every other time I've covered a linebacker like Dallas Gant or whoever, right? Like you've got Kamu Grugier-Hill and Brian Asamoah. I don't think either of those guys' roster odds are deadlocked by any stretch of the imagination. That said, you are an undrafted rookie coming to try and unseat a veteran. That's difficult. I mean, it's difficult when you're trying to unseat a rookie that got taken in like the 7th round or whatever, but let alone like a veteran and somebody who you picked up in free agency or you were excited about. It's not an easy battle, but it's not quite as uphill as the doctor told me I was going to lose my arm and I decided, in fact, I'm not going to do that and I'm just going to like rehab it like normal. That's insane. That work ethic has defined him everywhere that he has gone. And it'll find him here too. And maybe the path is through special teams. It probably has to be through special teams. But it's always those work ethic guys that give you that. A lot of the pictures that I could find for the thumbnail to this episode on YouTube, you saw KJ Cloyd with just the biggest grin on his face. And I think there's two joys here mixing to create an elation that makes me really happy. It's the joy of football, and it's the appreciation of just how he got here. Even if this is the end of the road. And hey, the NFL has taken a lot of miracle stories and said this is where they end. A lot of really great stories, a lot of really, wow, you're just happy to be here, that's so crazy. Surely you have the work ethic to do it again, and a lot of times the NFL says no. It's a perfectly normal outcome. But even if that's the case, he'll have nothing to hang his head about. But hey, he gets a chance just like everybody else does. Before we go, I want to just take a quick moment to talk about some of the things that came out in some pressers. There's a little bit of like media. The Vikings have ended their mini camp, so we're not going to hear from them now until camp opens up. So we're in the deadest dead of dead 6 weeks now. But a couple of things that we learned, Kevin O'Connell, I don't think we've talked about this yet. Kevin O'Connell said that they're going to have joint practices with the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. This will actually, I think, be the first time that the Vikings are having joint practices on the road, which is interesting. So that'll be fun. There's obviously the Kwesi Andrew Berry thing, but we also get to go probably all the media gets to go ask questions of Kevin Stefanski again. I'm sure that'll be fun for them. So that's interesting. Also, he confirmed that Sam Darnold will be QB1 to open training camp. That's in line with what everybody expected. A lot of people that didn't know that before were surprised by it. Skill issue, if you ask me. Of course, that was going to happen. But he also said like it will be, open competition everywhere in sort of that coachy way. We'll see if that actually means anything. Either way, I would not expect JJ. Nobody should expect JJ McCarthy to be the week 1 starter. If that happens, it's not out of the cards. If that happens, it's a pleasant surprise, but that doesn't appear to be the plan for the Vikings. It seems like they have a more long-term outlook there. But he actually talked about some of the footwork stuff that he did. I want to go a little deeper on that tomorrow, maybe, but he has said some interesting stuff, about his footwork and tying it into other plays and how that was part of the learning curve for him. But otherwise, you can tell he's media trained, that he knows how to not give too spicy of a quote to anybody, even though he's just a rookie. You can tell he's been told what to say and what not to say. So I don't know if we're going to get too many particularly outlandish quotes from JJ McCarthy during his time here in Minnesota, but we can make do with what we have. And there is, I think it is still interesting to just follow his mechanics, and that's what you're going to get on Locked On Vikings. I am not, if you're sitting waiting every day for me to tell you whether or not JJ McCarthy will work out, I'm never going to answer that question. I don't know. You can't with a quarterback. But we can at least follow his journey from college quarterback to pro quarterback and what he's supposed to be learning in the meantime. And I think that's not only a more interesting journey, but a more informative one that helps you understand where he's at. And if he doesn't work out, or if he does, now you know why. That's kind of what I want to give you. I will see you all tomorrow. And as always, Skol.